welcome back to your favorite show, if it is even a show. Kind of like just comp center bonus content, I guess. But I guess it's a show. Good morning to everybody out there who is there. One person, Falksy, of course. And Abby's here. Abby, hello. Both people in the audience right now are my most attention deprived audience members, always talking about me as if I don't pay attention to them. So here's your chance, Abby and Falksy. Hello. Going forward, if there's only two people in the chats, I will quit the show. I will not do this anymore. Why do I wake up for this? Felony Melanie was here earlier. I assume she's out building a tractor now. Maybe she'll come back and watch this later. Owen Chase is here. Thank God he saved the day. All right. Let's just go ahead and get into those memes. More memes on the worst day of the week since Monday. Memes to help you prepare for a less than ordinary life. I should go. Me struggling to climb out of the McDonald's ball pit. Are you sure? Yeah. Don't take your date to the ball pit at McDonald's. I think the last year of your life that you could do that and potentially be cool is possibly 18, to just kind of be subversive or something. But don't do that any other time after that. I bought a bag of M&Ms and they don't even have M's anymore. Guys, nothing is left in this world from the world you were born into. They're all W's now. W for woke. Can you believe that M&Ms have gone woke? I guess I can believe it. Oreos went pretty woke. It seems that another domino has fallen with M&Ms converting their longtime M, the thing that they're known for, being converted to W for woke. It's pretty upsetting. I believe these candies were first made in World War I, so they've got about 100-year history behind them, and I guess we're just going to throw it away for modern sentiments. But they get what they get, and they say if you go woke, you get broke, and I know it's just a small little thing, but people seeing that W there, they're not going to want to bite into that. My dream is to go to Italy and say, it's good, but it's no Olive Garden at every restaurant I eat at. Do you think Italian people even have a conception for what Olive Garden is? I kind of doubt it. I think that would probably disgust them. Guys, how often would you like to get updates about cheddar cheese? Daily? You want a daily update on the state of cheddar cheese? Maybe just once a week? A few times a month? Maybe only if something big happens in the world of cheddar cheese. If something big happened to cheddar? Here's an unpopular opinion. If I'm paying for a streaming service, I shouldn't be watching ads, period. I think that's true. It's so hard to know because a lot of these streaming platforms are putting up, I guess, what you would call quality content, but they're very expensive. So, like, I know yesterday they announced that the new Star Trek show has already been canceled. I can't imagine how expensive it is to make that show because it's all CGI, I'm sure. And then nobody watches it, The thing is if you only spend according to the revenue stream that you're getting in, no one's going to come to your platform. So for streaming services, you kind of have to go into the red. You kind of have to overspend versus, what you're taking in to attract people to come there. And I'm sure that's a never-ending loop. Like you're always spending more to get more people because it's so competitive. So streaming services are probably always in the red, and everything else in life has a commercial running in it, except for this show. But this is not high quality here, so that explains that. The Coca-Cola company. What if we intentionally release bad flavors with weird, unappealing names so that the lowest IQ consumers just buy them out of curiosity? Yeah, check it. Ooh, what's this one? I remembered I tried Coca-Cola space flavor once. I'm like, this is not authentically space flavored. It just tasted like it had breakfast cereal in it. It was really weird. It was really horrible, really gross. Um, that said, I'm a big fan of vanilla Coke and other Cokes. Beef jerky is supposed to be a food for poor people. It was never meant to be $14 a bag. What is the deal with beef jerky? It sounds like a bad Seinfeld setup, but yeah, beef jerky was supposed to be what you eat if you're goddamn broke. You go to the gas station anymore. It's more expensive in the gas station than the grocery store, but yeah, I mean, you'll be at a gas station looking at a $14 bag of jerky. How is that worth it? Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm an alcoholic. Sir, this is AAA. I know, I'm explaining why this car is in a lake. Introduce yourself to the tow truck driver this way. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm an alcoholic. This one, big one for me. I wish car manufacturers would bring back older models. Change absolutely nothing. Just make them brand new. They could not have picked a better vehicle to make this case. This is the Jeep Cherokee, not the Jeep Grand Cherokee. The Jeep Cherokee XJ, which has an inline 6-cylinder engine. It's possibly the finest engine the Jeep ever built. It's universally loved and beloved, but do you think that Jeep is still making the inline 6 engine on the Jeep XJ platform? No, they are not. Why? I would if I could go out and get a 2026 Jeep Cherokee XJ, I would do that. Retro car releases would go crazy. They do it to a certain extent. I do drive a 2014 Dodge Challenger, which is a retro car. The thing is that the body's made out of plastic instead of metal, and the engine is the same engine that's in a Dodge Caravan. So you have some of that aesthetic, but when it comes down to it, it's really a poor imitation for the 60s Mopars. I continue to have problems with my Challenger for no reason. I got it out of the garage I mentioned last week, but so I had to replace the battery. Well, I took the battery down to the battery store and I gave them the battery, forgetting that the clamp was still attached to it. And so I take the new battery home and I'm like, oh shit, and I forgot the clamp. Well, the battery store had closed, so I went and just grabbed a clamp off of my Jeep XJ, which is sitting kind of in the north yard there behind the shed. Needs a new transmission. And I felt like a genius. I could take this battery clamp off of this mid-90s car and put it on a 2014, and, it's all the same science, right? Well, I'm only half smart because I don't think I got it clamped down well enough, or it's possibly that the old clamp was corroded because I ran down the battery. Now, if you don't drive a Dodge Challenger, I'm going to tell you what happens to you when you deplete the battery on a modern Dodge Challenger. You get fucked. Okay, you're in a bad situation with your battery dead, but this is what happens. Okay, so I get in and I turn the key and nothing happens. I'm like, ah, shit, I put in my RAM key because they're the same. Nope, the battery's dead. It won't let you have your keys back. There's a ignition solenoid that holds onto the key that's electrically powered, so it doesn't let the key go if the battery's dead. So you put in the key, and the battery's dead. Your keys live here now. You're not leaving. You're staying. Well, let me look at the battery because I'm pretty sure it's just that grounding issue when I put on that clamp. I bet if I just wiggle it, I can get enough spark to start this car. Well, the battery is looking. Weight distributed into the back of the vehicle, so the battery's in the trunk. Well, you cannot get into the trunk. Can't get back there because the trunk release is electric. So how are you supposed to get to the battery if the trunk's back there? Well, there are posts under the hood that you can use to jump the vehicle. And if you release the hood, that's a spring release, mechanism that you can use to jump the battery. Okay. Problem is I don't need a jump and I don't have anyone to jump me. I need to be wriggling a cable here. So yes, as though I was escaping from a kidnapping, I had to pull down the seats in the back. This is a two-door vehicle, by the way. So I'm crawling over from the front seat into the back seat, into the trunk to pull the emergency release handle. I'm doing this in public. I'm a really tall guy. My legs are hanging out the passenger side door because the driver's seat is electric. So you can't move that back to get back there. You have to go to the passenger seat where the seat moves forward on a rail. Anyway, if your battery dies in a Challenger, you're fucked. I wonder if Dodge Challenger engineers were ever sentenced to have to drive the vehicles that they create. That was something I could not have guessed would be the case. Let me just take some hate for having a Dodge Challenger for no reason. I'm sure there's Ford people in here, GM people in here who are all just going to get on my case for no reason. Lauren, good to see you this morning. Chase, as I said, hello. Foxy, Lauren, Chase, all people just all talking to each other. Not to use John's platform to promote my own. Well, then we won't. M&Ms are actually trying to culturally appropriate tennis balls. I don't get it. I'm deep cleaning. I'm so glad that Foxy is up to something else. She should just be sitting and watching me, not her child, not cleaning. We don't need to have other people plugging the projects here because I was already the best thing ever to be on her show, and she hasn't had me back. I'll be listening, but I have a circus to manage, Tyler says. Jenny says, I recently have been making my own beef jerky, and cuts of meat were $8.99 per pound alone, and it was so good. 3 pounds gone in 1 week. I used to make beef jerky, get the eye round, and then I would make it with all kinds of great stuff. Guinness and peppers and whatever. I found a lot of great recipes. And I literally made it the Alton Brown way, which is you take these just regular box fans, like what you might put in front of a window, and you stack them so that they're shooting vertically. You lay, I believe, paper towels on them so that you're not blasting dust into your beef jerky. But you just put the slices of jerky in there, and then you just let it run for a day or 8 hours or whatever. You don't really need a food dehydrator. All a food dehydrator is a fan. So I would make it that way. And you do have to make a lot at a time. No cars are making engines that last forever. That's true. Well, what I noticed about the Challenger specifically is not only is it not made to last forever, but there's planned obsolescence built into it. We're at the point now where we can precision engineer things to last to a certain point, meaning your $30,000 or 30,000 mile warranty. When I surpassed 30,000 miles, it was within 100 miles that like all of a sudden my dashboard instrument cluster started lighting up with warning lights. They know how long that thing's going to last. In fact, they design it to be that way. They want to assure you that it's going to be fine for 30,000 miles when you buy it. But when that 30,000 miles is up, they realize that, well, for most people, you're probably still going to be associated in your mind with the dealer that you bought this from. And we want you to come back to the Dodge dealer to get these things fixed. Especially if you're buying a car like a Challenger, you're probably more of a person more inclined to go to a dealer. That's just a guess. And so they want you to go back to the dealer and get these things fixed. And they're not shy about lying to you either. I remember you may have heard the story of me striking a raccoon. For some reason, I went to a Dodge dealership to get the body fixed. It was a stupid decision. They call me and tell me, hey, just so you know, there's on these engines, something that typically happens is that this certain part fails. I don't remember what it was. I remember it was bad news, and they're giving it to me. I'm like, hey, well, we have this thing here. Do you want us to just take care of it? I'm like, well, how much will that cost? They're like $10,000. I'm like, absolutely not. Like, first of all, fuck you for knowingly selling an engine that is going to have this part failure. It's like a piston was gonna like blow out of there or something. Like, if you know that's the case, why aren't you issuing a recall? Because you call me and tell me that this fucking thing's gonna happen. It's because dealerships will screw you over when it comes to getting vehicles fixed. And Dodge, the engineers at Dodge who don't care about, a woman getting stranded on the side of the road and having to try to figure out how to get access to a trunk by crawling in through the back seat. Just shows you that they generally don't care about your situation at all. That's why I like older vehicles, because they're easy to work on. The Jeep people would go crazy if they brought that back. That's exactly right. And I mean, occasionally, brands will flirt with things like bringing back storied models. Like they just brought back the Bronco a few years ago. They retired that after O.J. Simpson went on the run with it, and they brought it back only a couple years ago, and people were crazy about the Bronco. But when they bring back, when they revive model names like the Bronco or the Challenger, they're not really the same thing. They're saying it's a new model in that line or whatever. But what you're getting is you're buying nostalgia. You're maybe buying a classic body shape. Certainly the Bronco and the Challenger are both vehicles that are really known by their silhouette, by what they look like. But what you're getting is still a modern vehicle. Like I said, the engine in my Challenger is the same engine that's in a Dodge Caravan. And I'm sure whatever's in the newer Ford Broncos is probably the same thing that's in their F-250s or whatever. So you're not really getting the old vehicle. What I want them to do is literally re-release the 96 Jeep XJ. Just don't make any changes on that. You still got the blueprints around there somewhere. Make that again. I realize it would be expensive to make it that way because it was a better built vehicle than anything you can find today, but go ahead and charge $30,000, $40,000 for it. Charge as much for it as you're charging for a Wagoneer. I'd rather have an XJ for that price, something that isn't full of all these so-called amenities that are going to break down. Like on my Challenger right now, I've got a light that's turned on because my tire pressure monitor sensors are kaput. They're at the end of their life, being 10, 11 years old at this point. And I was like, I'll go find a time to go get those fixed. Then I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't really need tire pressure monitor sensors. I don't really need those. On most of the vehicles that I've had my whole life, they didn't have a tire pressure sensor. So I'm like, just trying to find out a way to turn off the light. Why the fuck would I go out and replace these sensors? And it's the same thing in the Wagoneer. You're paying for all these sensors and things like that you don't need. If they would remake the 96 XJ, you would get a vehicle that didn't have those tire pressure sensors in it. And then you wouldn't have a bullshit warning light or a sign that you need to return to your Jeep dealership to get these tire pressure sensors. So, I think that they would make more money up front, move more vehicles, and then people would be happy to not have all the bullshit so-called amenities that would break on them later. Just my take. I would be happy to have that. Dewey's here. I've been saying that about an auto manufacturers for years. Retro releases would be awesome. Good to see you, Dewey. I've been trying to tell my wife that old cars are better, but she only sees that the new ones have screens and are pretty. Yeah, you got to get her into an old vehicle. Maybe there's one that would appeal to her specifically. You have to go back really far now, though, is the problem. Is that even going back so far as the 90s to get a Jeep XJ or something like that, you're probably going to fail to impress somebody. And nothing in the 80s is really going to help you either, and much of the 70s. But maybe if you put her into a little Datsun 210 or something, some small zippy vehicle that you put 20 gallons of gas in it and you don't have to refill it again for 6 months. That was actually part of the appeal of bringing back the Challenger, is that when gas surged above $3 a gallon and I have to drive 100 miles a day, I'm like, well, the Challenger actually has a smaller engine, and it's also a lighter vehicle. And so compared to my truck, I'm going to be saving a lot of money on gas. So the cost of tags, the cost of the battery, all that stuff I had to do was only about 3 tanks worth of gas on the truck. And I realized, well, if I drive this thing most of the summer, I'm going to be ahead financially by doing that. Wilson tennis balls. Gotcha. What a deep reference. There is no money in dealership mechanics for reliability. Well, I mean, they just set you up so that you're going to fail again. Just get an old XJ. Yeah, they're hard to find now, though. I have one, and like I said, needs a new transmission on it. So Going to take a chance on this from Woodcarver Corner. Hello. I appreciate you taking a chance on this. You may already be gone. Morning. Just randomly got this on my feed. Figured why not? Woodcarver, if you're still here, there's a collection of people who enjoy watching me on other shows. So what you're watching is actually kind of like bonus content from other shows. I do a true crime show called Com Center, and on that show, we don't do a lot of audience interaction, even when we're live. But we have a very dedicated audience of people. And so this is sort of like the show I do for them, but anybody's welcome. I hope that you enjoy the memes here in the commentary. Basically, what I do is I try to find memes that will inspire conversation or an interesting story. And this is a relaxed, laid-back show that is perfect for you using the bathroom in the morning or driving. Hopefully, I find something interesting for you to say. And feel free to put anything in the chat. I'll be happy to respond to you. Jonathan, you could turn the lights off by pulling the fuse that controls that. Yes, I've played the fuse game before. Do you know what they do now, Jenny? They love putting critical and non-critical features together on the same fuse. So I could pull out the fuse that would turn off the light for those tire pressure sensor monitors. And then I will not have headlights anymore, or I will not have brakes. They love to do that. They love to put a critical and non-critical system on the same fuse relay so that you can't do that. I mean, I could look into it, but I think that the answer is actually to take an OBD reader tool and then feed it some code just to disable the light. ChatGPT recommended to me that I cover it up with tape. I'm not lying. ChatGPT literally did tell me to cover up on my 2014 Dodge Challenger, to cover it up with electrical tape. It's like it told me, because you like to do things in kind of a 90s way, why don't you handle it like that? I'm like, well, I appreciate that you know me, chat, but I really don't feel like putting a piece of tape over the instrument cluster of my 2014 Challenger, which is hard to believe that's 10 years old now. But not only that, but look at this, just this vehicle classic. And a Jeep XJ is something that you would find in an audacious color when these were first produced. They were actually made in a lot of bright colors. I've seen a bright yellow Jeep XJ before. I was actually considering buying one until I realized that it looked exactly like the short bus. So I did not get a bright yellow Jeep XJ. I got a classic 90s hunter green one. But if there's a vehicle that you'd like to see revived from the 80s, 90s, or even the 60s, or whatever it is that you like, go ahead and put it in there. I would love to pull up a picture on the internet and talk about that with you if you are into that. If I open a restaurant, there won't be a menu. You will just get what you deserve. I would love to do that. I would love to be the server or the maitre d' if I'm running the place, the owner, the host, all that. I come out and kind of just talk to you for a few minutes and kind of get a vibe for whether or not you're a good person. And then, like, if I just think you're just a rather middling person, you're getting spaghetti. I'm just bringing you like something you could make at home. If I think that you're, cute or something, if you're a cute girl, like, obviously I'm going to go back there and bust my ass to bring you something that's impressive. If I think that you're, if I don't like your politics, if I don't like the look of you, if you're impolite to me, I'm probably just going to bring you toast and white gravy and chipped beef. Shit on angles, all you're going to get from me. But that's what I would do. I'll just bring you whatever you deserve. Every time I use self-checkout, the person in front of me has never used self-checkout before touchscreens or money. I also love the look that when someone needs help, they get this whole turning away, putting their hands on their hips. They look like that one meme of the disappointed guy in the stands who's wearing the blue vest. I don't know the name of that meme, but they sit there and just try to look aggrieved so that someone will come over and help them. They don't walk over to the person who's attending the lines and like, hey, pardon me, would you mind helping me out over on 13 or whatever? They just try to look as pissed off as possible. But I like using the self-checkout because I hate interacting with others. So that is usually where I am at. The first slice of bread stays in the bag until it meets the last slice of bread. Then those slices, which we called the heel in my house, we called that the heel of the loaf. I'm curious what you called it. Did you call it the butt? Those would go in the trash. That's the right way, and I won't change my mind. Oh, we had different childhoods, okay? In my house, not only was the loaf eaten in continuity from left to right, like whoever got the heel just got the heel, but if the two heels were all that were left behind, I love to take that extra crusty sandwich, and I would load it up with peanut butter. Like, I would put twice as much peanut butter on there as usual, and it was just a different sandwich experience. We didn't waste any bread in my family. Waste not, want not. And there were plenty of times where I still wanted, because my mom neglected me. My girlfriend just added uncooked pasta to cold water and then turned on the stove. And when I said that she should boil the water before adding pasta, she said, literally, all men are the same. Yeah, all men, we're all the same. We all know how to cook pasta. She should maybe take the hint. American novelist Ernest Hemingway, using a Thompson submachine gun as shark repellent while aboard his boat in the 1930s. I believe, one time on The Office, Andy made a joke about going shark hunting with a gun. He's literally, you could see the rounds casings ejecting there. He's literally using a machine gun to shoot sharks. Ernest Hemingway, a real man's man, he said that there were only 3 true sports. I think he said bullfighting, auto racing, and mountain climbing. You got to remember, he never really saw modern football. Who decided that candles go on top? Ben Franklin, the ambassador to France during the Revolution, says this is an excellent use of free will. Ben Franklin is still out there, unless it's the Ben Franklin of Ben Franklin Crafts. Date idea. We sit and listen to my playlist in complete silence, and you stand up and applaud me when it's finished. Great songs. Those are some excellent songs, John. Really great. The problem is that most of my playlists are completely schizophrenic and haphazard. You will just get the most wild changes between music. You will literally be hearing an emotional motif from a James Bond movie, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, when Tracy Bond's killed, the music that swells, the strings and the horns that highlight the emotional intensity of Bond seeing his wife dead. And then it will be Crazy Town playing Butterfly, the one-hit wonder from the 90s that extols the virtue of Hot Topic girls. Those songs will play back to back. And so anyone else listening to that, I can't imagine how far they would be thrown for a loop on that. Showing a photo of a healthy guy to my doctor, like I'd show the barber a picture of a haircut. This is what I want to be. Make me healthy. I'm going to go down to my doctor and I'm going to show him a picture of Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman has always been sort of my role model for what I want to look like physically, but I'm not willing to work out 5 times a day and eat nothing but egg whites. Those are the 2 things that are holding me back. Other than that, I would look exactly like Hugh Jackman. Being absolutely ripped at age 41 is possible. Thank you, Hugh, for showing the way. Next time I go to my doctor, I'm just going to show him a picture of a shirtless Hugh Jackman. Make me into this. Genetics is a part of it, Hugh. I will never look like you. You can just tell when someone's never had a job that made them mop. I remember when I was a security guard in my 20s, I remember there was an occasion where something so terrible happened that even I mopped. I was the security guard at the front of the Target store, kind of back in the day where we still kind of looked like cops. And this woman came in. She would get dropped off by the paratransit bus because she was very, very, very overweight. And she would ride around on our electric carts until the batteries died. And she would conceal a lot of merchandise on her person, but we did not ever arrest her for shoplifting because, first of all, the sight of arresting an apparently disabled person would be a very bad look for Target. She also smelled bad. We did not want her to come in the office. We knew that the cart would not fit into the office. We also didn't want to talk to her or confront her about these things. So we would write off the stuff that she would steal, which was mostly small stuff. But she came to the front of the store and she went to what we used to call Food Avenue. That's where you can go to get a little personal pan pizza, some popcorn. And in modern times, you can get Starbucks coffee there, but it used to just be, we even had Taco Bell back in the 2000s when I worked there. You get Taco Bell, you get pizza, popcorn, coffee, pretzels. That was what you could get at Food Avenue. Well, One hot summer day, she's in there and she's getting ice cream. We had ice cream for a bit. And but for some reason she decided strangely, weird choice, to lose control of her bowels. That's right. She began just pooping. And she couldn't get the cart in and around Food Avenue, so she would get up and walk there because, all the tables and chairs. So she's pooping. It is sliding down her leg, and she is leaving trails of poop, walking back and forth. And I'm standing there watching this. I'm like, my God, if I don't get out of here, I'm going to be the only one responsible for dealing with this. So I call the manager. I'm like, this is what's happening. You need to get involved. And he's just like, I really don't want to do this. Like, even I don't get paid enough to deal with this, to throw this fat lady out of the store for pooping at our food production area. And sure enough, it is summertime. We're by the front doors and flies are coming in because they can smell fresh food on the floor. So now we've got human fecal matter, a huge fat woman covered in fecal matter. It's just streaming down her leg. She doesn't care. She does not care. She's not embarrassed. She has no dignity. And the flies are landing in the poop, but then they're going all over all the surfaces, right? All the tables, they're landing in the food production area. I'm just like, this is an ecological disaster. And I'm not sure what the manager did because a lot of my memories from that day are blacked out, thankfully. But I knew that, like, I have to get on this. I can't, I can't walk away from this disaster. This is an embarrassment for the store. And even though I'm a fucking security guard, and I don't think this is a good look for a security guard, really, because I don't think a security guard should be mopping. But I didn't fucking care. Like, this is so ridiculous. Like, a security guard also shouldn't preside over a store that's filled with human poop. So even though mopping was not really my thing as a security guard, I didn't care. I got in there and mopped. And I don't know if that's the first time I ever had to mop, but you figure it out quick, right? How to replace the water safely, how to wring it out, how to keep going. It was disturbing, to say the least. Curious if you guys have ever been in that situation. I'm literally going to say put electrical tape over it. Just don't worry about it. Unsalted mashed potatoes from the box. My father had one growing up. It was definitely a little fun, a little play toy. Heel of the bread. It's like a loaf that French bread that would kill for that to eat. Unsalted mashed potatoes from the box. Yeah, that's what we would eat too growing up. In fact, I used to think that, like, real mashed potatoes were, like, impossible to make. So I cut my mom a break. Like, we don't have the tools to make mashed potatoes. We don't have the things that you need to make potatoes mashed. It turns out if you just make them hot for long enough, you could pretty much mash them with a fork and kind of stir them up. There was really nothing to that. But I didn't know. I was a child. The heels were always the last sandwich. The double heel sandwich is the grand finale of the loaf. I'm glad other people feel that way. Jen, let's be real. Ernest would probably still feel the same with modern football. Well, there was a golden era that he would have really enjoyed. He would have enjoyed football from 1958 through 1975, probably. He would have liked that. Abby says, I was a waitress. We didn't do so much mopping as hose off the mats from the kitchen. Yeah. The difference of healthcare at most other jobs and cannot ignore the gross, obese, and stinky, and pretty much everyone poops and you deal with it. Poor Jenny, she sees this and doing this all the time. Stop talking. Please stop talking, John. I find to go through it, you do, even though this is a show where it's designed to keep people wanting to listen. I did just tell a horrific poop story. I'm sure I will regret that later. Anyways, I got carried away. I'm putting out a new edict that if you want to hear a poop story, you should listen to my show Hard Time. It's about being in prison. There's a lot of poop related stories in there. I dropped an episode last Friday. If you haven't heard it, you should go back and listen to it, especially if this episode's leaving you something wanting. Illiterate people have read it. How is your life affected by not being able to write and read? What is it like for you being illiterate? And it was me all along, says FAFFASD space DSQDBURDNQWH. Oh, what did you expect? My dog even begs when I have soup. Like, you want a fucking piece of my soup, bro? Come on, think. A dog would love soup. They don't care. My dog loves wet food. She would love soup. Don't read books to impress people. Read books to get stickers, which then, when accumulated, gain you a free personal pan pizza. Those of you who know me know that I, under threat of physical violence and peer pressure, I defrauded the Book It program in 1995, and I have never forgiven myself for that. This past weekend, I did attend a restaurant called Pizza Hut Classic. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, but I was in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota, a little town called St. James, Minnesota. And right off the highway there, Highway 169, they have a place called Pizza Hut Classic. And I went into this restaurant, and it's pretty much a classic Pizza Hut. They did not have pizza on a buffet. They did have a salad bar. They had a couple claw machines. I was really hoping to see a cabinet arcade of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in there, or a jukebox. Those were the things I would see back in the classic Pizza Hut of the 90s. But there was an air of despair, because even though it was 8 o'clock on a Saturday night, there were not a lot of people there. Of course, it's St. James, Minnesota. What do you expect? And the staff seemed depressed. The guys that worked back in the kitchen, you could tell that they didn't have any table waiting experience. They were doing their best. And when you came in, there was a sign on the counter next to the register that said, "The entire world is understaffed. Maybe show some appreciation for the integrity of the people who did show up." And that set the tone for everything. I at once felt sad for the people that were there. I felt appreciative that they were there. I felt like their job's probably a lot harder than I could ever understand. You guys know that I only worked in the food industry for a combined 9 hours. You maybe all know that story. I couldn't do it. And but they brought table service of delicious hand tossed meat lovers pizza, and it was absolutely tasted just like it did back in the 90s. It was hot, fresh, and delicious. And I got some garlic cheesy bread, and that was delicious. And they had the red stackable cups and the little lights and the whole deal. And it was a classic Pizza Hut experience that had quite a bit of nostalgia in it. But there was a hint of sadness, as though we all knew that we were pretending. And they had signs up for the Book It program in there, which was created by President Ronald Reagan and later affirmed by Bill Clinton, meaning there was a time when we actually had bipartisan legislation and programs that everyone loved. And 90s, was all about reading, and I still feel bad for defrauding that program to this day. Chuck Norris passed away this past weekend. It was very sad. He was born May 6th, 1945. The Nazis surrendered, and now I have deplatformed myself by saying that out loud. They surrendered the very next day. Was that a coincidence? Well, yes. There's no way that a one-day-old baby could have defeated them. Well, readers added context to this. The truth is that Chuck Norris was born on March 10th, 1940. By May of 1945, he would have been 5 years old, and he was definitely old enough to wipe out the German war machine by that point. So it's completely plausible and likely that he did defeat the rise of the Third Reich. So good for Chuck Norris. We miss you. Interesting guy. I mostly know him from Walker, Texas Ranger clips on Conan, or occasionally showing up like at the end of Dodgeball. But I will say about Chuck Norris that you have lived a great life, and if your career, if you became so legendary that your whole thing is that people of all ages talked about how great you were in ever more outlandish scenarios, he was a man for all ages. Everybody appreciated him. And I think unironically, Walker, Texas Ranger was not a great show, but I think people did appreciate Chuck Norris, and he seemed to be a genuinely great guy. And 2026 has been hard on taking some of the good ones. Lindsey Graham, still alive, by the way, for some reason, a warmongering Republican, still out there. And then Mitch McConnell, also still alive. But don't worry, we've lost Chuck Norris. The world does not seem to be very fair, does it? They should have a smoking section at Planet Fitness. That sound crazy to you? Well, they also have pizza night at Planet Fitness. I used to be a member of that. And I think Wednesday nights, which I could never attend due to being at work, but they had a fucking pizza night. Nothing ruins a night at the gym like eating a single slice of pizza afterwards. Why would they have pizza night? And not only that, but they were kind of known as the place that had Tootsie Rolls. So after your workout, you would go get a Tootsie Roll, prime yourself to be addicted to sugar, and then be fat, never get into shape. And I think strangely that would get people to quit coming to the gym, which I think was ultimately part of the strategy. I don't think Planet Fitness wants you to go to the gym, and I'll explain to you why. The gym has a certain capacity. If everyone who's a member shows up on a regular basis, the gym will be full of people and no one will want to be there for that. And people will then cancel their memberships in search of another gym, right? And they would go to their competitors. They want people to have gym memberships, but never attend the gym, never actually show up, but just continue to have that automatically debited to their account every month. So they want you to work out. They want you to be addicted to sugar. They want you to be fat and miserable and never make any progress, never have any self-esteem, but to feel badly about yourself so that you keep continuing to pay them every month. Planet Fitness is a terrible gym. And if you are going there, I suggest that you quit, but that's just me. Guys, remember the old saying, give a man a horse, he'll eat in a day. Teach a man to horse and make him drink water. Why did they go to the trouble of putting up a fake ear, but only on one side? Anyway, I don't know that. Any ideas what that could be about? Give a man a horse and he'll eat in a day. It takes a day, I guess, to process, to butcher the body. Teach a man to horse and make him drink water. Baffling. All right, pick one per row. We just mentioned pizza, Pizza Hut, and within the context of the gym, I do happen to love pizza. But I'm going to go with classic pepperoni. I'm going to go with the 7-Up. And then for my ice cream, I'm probably going to go with cookies and cream because I don't know what half-baked is. It looks like it could be an amalgamation of various things, brownie, chocolate chip cookie dough. I'm not sure what half-baked ice cream is. Could be good. But because I don't know what it is, I don't think I'm eligible to pick it. I might also go with a classic can of Coke. Let's see what you guys like. Tyler says 9,000 BC. He wants to travel back to an era before Christ, before even pizza was invented. That's what he is choosing. He does not want to have a nice summer meal. Very strange. We got free nothing. Didn't like any of his shows, but Chuck is beyond legend. Eats Goku's spirit bomb for breakfast. I don't know what that is. I'm guessing it's some sort of energy discharge from an anime figure. Who knows? Planet Fitness also had donut mornings. God's sakes, Planet Fitness, have some shame. You guys don't preach freedom of speech. Yeah, Canada, Canadians, they're also not allowed to post memes anymore. Soon, Tyler will disappear from his show because the Canadian government will get wise that he's watching me and they will cut him off. So enjoy Tyler while he lasts. Let's see what we have to say about people who like pizza. Chase says he'll go with the pepperoni. He'll have a orange Fanta. I haven't had orange Fanta in forever, and he'll also have half-baked. I don't know what that is. Jenny's just going to go with the plain cheese. I never really liked plain cheese, people. Sorry, Jenny. It's not personal. I just feel like you're not living up to your full potential with a cheese pizza. You're also going to have a classic can of Coke and s'mores ice cream. Abby wants anchovies ice cream, which is a gross move, typical of Abby. She is the one who could take a situation and find a way to ruin it. So Abby will have anchovies ice cream. You will have to make that yourself. You will have to make it in your own ice cream maker because no one will do that for you, not even Cold Stone. Imagine Abby showing up at Cold Stone with a can of anchovies. Can you put this in it? Everyone's mad. She does that, though. She literally does go to Cold Stone bringing a tin of her own anchovies. Supreme Coke and half-baked. Anyone want to explain half-baked to me? Somehow I'm 41 years old and a certain kind of ice cream has been concealed from me. I have not been allowed to know what it is. Half-baked is Ben & Jerry's flavor. Oh, that's why. I don't eat Ben & Jerry's. I love America. Foxy says pepperoni Coke and half-baked ice cream. That was a perfect guess, John. Thank you. Pepperoni pizza, Pepsi, and half-baked. Yeah, of course, Tyler's going to go off the reservation. He can't conform to any rubric for useful comparison. I honestly didn't like Oman cheese pizza until I was an adult and realized you can enjoy the cheese more, I suppose, if you've got some really nice cheese on there. And I'm disappointed they didn't have root beer as an option. That is a staple with pizza. I completely agree. I would actually put in root beer rather than Fanta if I had control of this. I don't eat ice cream. She doesn't deny putting anchovies in the ice cream. She thinks she can get out of this by denying eating ice cream. Oh, no, I don't eat ice cream. I'm too good for ice cream. This is like saying, oh, I don't own a television set. You have to know your audience, Abby, and that is something you should keep in mind as a fellow podcaster. Know your audience. Don't alienate them by saying certain things that make you appear like you're part of some sort of bourgeoisie gentry, some sort of literati, white collar looking down at people. Ice cream is peasant food is the vibe that you're sending out with this. And just it won't play well in a modern audience. Brownie and cookie dough. Very nice. Abby's not part of a cult. No, she is a cult of one. By definition, a cult is many people. But she is following her own crazy ideas of having anchovy ice cream. And it is disgusting, and we should look down on her for that. The first man to call another man boss, and it wasn't his boss, doesn't know the impact he left on society. I literally go to a place and get my oil changed, and they go way over the top and calling me boss. What's up, boss? How's it going today, boss? Same as last time, boss? Why don't you go ahead and turn the key there, boss? Why don't you go ahead and, open the hood, boss? What's the mileage on that, boss? Let me get your sticker, boss. You have a good day, boss. Thanks for stopping by, boss. It'll be 65.60, boss. They put that in every time. And I realized the last time I got my oil change, which was last week, is like, this is my pleasure of Chick-fil-A for oil changes is calling me boss because it completely works. I go to Chick-fil-A and I like hearing them say my pleasure to me when I order chicken and I say thank you. They say my pleasure. It makes me feel good. You go to a place that has real working men in it, oil men, people that can within 5 seconds change the oil in my truck. They call me boss. It makes me feel like a real man. I love having the esteem and brotherhood of these grimy grease monkey guys. It's very affirming to me as a man. They have hacked male psychology, and by calling me boss. And I think they're excellent for doing that. I think it's very smart. A buddy of mine at the state penitentiary used to call me boss, and I was a rookie, and he would call me that, and it was very nice. And at my job, I always call my actual boss. Literally call him that. I've been made fun of for calling him boss before, but I don't care. I think he likes being called boss. Strange. The gas prices keep getting higher, but it still tastes exactly the same. The quality's not getting better. Still tastes just like the cheaper gas. Even ethanol doesn't have that popcorn flavor you're looking for anymore. What are you studying at Brown University? Pope? What are you studying there? Ask your doctor if eating an entire package of hot dogs is right for you. They would probably say don't do that. The sodium, the yak lips that they use for protein in that, probably not a great idea. And yet I'm sure I've probably eaten an entire package of hot dogs within a day before. Question for all of you. This comes from Andrew Nadeau. Why is judge the only job where you get to bang a little hammer to make people shut up? I've literally needed that in every job I've ever had. Why also do they wear little robes and get to decide everything about our society? You guys know that in the past couple of years, I've taken on a deep disrespect for judges because I don't fucking get it. Some people just have like a bow down authority for the law. I question it at least. I don't understand why somebody who's like a super lawyer in a black room gets to decide things for me, especially when it comes to the Supreme Court. Yeah, they have appellate decisions to make that somehow guide the course of this country for 50 years. I don't get that. They're not elected. They're not accountable to anyone. It's like the founding fathers said, well, if everything else doesn't work, we have this secret council of not elected aldermen who will just decide, and there will be 9 of them, and whatever they say goes. I don't think that they actually did predict judicial review that came about in Marbury v. Madison. I think it happened by accident. I think that they couldn't have guessed that the complexity and number of cases that we would have reached the Supreme Court, or that our Congress would be so cowardly that a decision would come from the judiciary that would not be met with some sort of legislative response. If the Supreme Court is coming down with a decision like Roe v. Wade, which makes abortion legal or allowable, no matter what side of the issue you are on that, the legislature, Congress, back in the 70s should have had a response within their next session saying, you know what, Supreme Court has made a precedent which makes it legal. So we should codify this. We should just make it legal. Or if you don't like the way the Supreme Court came down, if you're a social conservative, the Congress should have come down with a new law saying that no, abortion is not legal, and then there could be challenges to that would go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court could continue to find it constitutional or unconstitutional or whatever, depending on the law or however it was applied or whatever. But Congress and legislators, both city, state, local, they're all cowardly. They don't want to have to be made to stand on a record. They just want to come. They just want to be reelected every 2 years or every 6 years, and engage in money laundering. They want to take money from Israel in order to send money to Israel, taxpayer money to Israel. They have their own personal pockets lined by AIPAC, makes them rich, makes them able to campaign, continue to run for office, to sustain their office holding, and then they send your money, my money, to Israel. And of course, on the other side of the aisle, they do the same thing with green energy. They continue to fearmonger people about how climate change will destroy the earth. In just 8 years, the oceans will be boiling and the sky will be falling. So we better be sending money to certain liberal concerns, academia and others, sending them your taxpayer dollars, and then they will contribute to our campaigns because we support their research, even though it never conclusively finds anything. So politicians on both sides of the aisle just want to be in office forever in order to enrich themselves at your expense. It is just money laundering that is going on. Sorry to lift the veil and ruin your day, but that is all that is going on. And judges, obviously, just get rich and just decide things for you, but you don't get to elect them. First beer in the new apartment. Got dumped and had to move. It's not much, but this year's been shitty, and I feel like things are finally turning around. A woman would look at this and say, this man has hit rock bottom. This man has nothing going for him. I look at this and I see, first of all, if you were living here by yourself, you are free. No, you don't have much, but you have your independence. You have your self-determination, your freedom. You can deck this place out however you like. You've got a fireplace, which is nice. Put a TV on top of there, put a recliner in there, and you're 90% of the way there. This is what possibilities look like. This is what freedom looks like, and it doesn't look so bad to me. A lot of people would rather be taken care of by the government than have face this kind of freedom. But I mean this totally unironically, that this looks good to me. This looks like freedom to me. This looks like self-determination to me. And having a nice Coors in an apartment that's now your own, you are taking charge of your life again. White people be like, I called the city and they said there's nothing they can do for the squirrel. You have any idea how true that is? That someone will call me, they will literally call me, and they want something to be done for a common wild animal. Yeah, there's a raccoon out here that has an owie. There's an opossum out here that he's having a seizure. Is there anything you can do? No. No, we don't rescue wild animals from the circle of life, people. I'm sorry that you were so sheltered that you don't know that animals all are born and live and die according to their time, set by nature, set by God, and that death is often a gruesome sight, but it's completely natural. No, we do not do anything for wild animals. No, not even the majestic birds. Not going to do anything. There's no such thing as a deer surgeon that's going to bring a deer back to life. They're not going to do chest compressions on a deer. You know, they're not going to put a splint on a deer or a tourniquet on a deer and then do an amputation and rehab them, do the little thing with the rails where they're teaching them how to walk on all threes. No. Sometimes I ask people like, oh, so the animal's suffering. They're like, yeah, we got to get him to a hospital. I'm like, ma'am, if we do anything, I'm going to send a deputy out to shoot it because I work in the countryside. And they're like, oh my God. I'm like, well, you just ratted out your suffering buddy. So unless you're going to be man enough, and I mean this, unless you're going to be man enough to put that animal out of its misery, we're going to do it. Because I don't believe in suffering for sure. But, the idea that we're going to rehab a rabbit or something or a wild feral cat, that we're going to do anything for that. Grow up, people. We already covered that one. And that one. And that one. And that one. I ranted on that one. And that one. All right. My mom used to buy me Chinese food as a kid, but she had to stop because the red sauce would make me go crazy and hurt myself and others. A concentrated source of red 40 right there in the duck sauce. By the way, this is sugar chicken. It is the only thing available at Panda Express's menu is sugar chicken. But the idea that you ate the red sauce and you went crazy and hurt yourself. In others, you gave yourself ADD back in the 90s with a meal like this. In all seriousness, a friend of mine has a son who struggles with those issues, and they've eliminated all the dyes from their diet, all the Cheetos and all those things, and the kid's doing better. Could be a placebo effect. I don't know. But getting rid of those dyes helped the child focus and have a better life. So I'm all about it. What's funny about this is that my friend who's doing this with her family is someone who's really ideologically opposed to me and probably hates RFK Jr. And yet, before he was even taking office, was implementing his ideas. So I haven't asked her about that, but it's just funny to me. Guys, this is the politics section, by the way. So if you don't like politics, we'll try to get through this. We'll try to go quickly. And then we get to the memes that are depressing. So please, you're going to want to stick around for the memes that are depressing. Never forget that police officers in California were dispatched on a bright, sunny day to arrest a lone paddleboarder on the ocean, hundreds of yards from any other human being, in order to protect society from a respiratory virus that we are told is hard to spread to anyone more than 6 feet away. Yes, I was taking calls from people too. They would rat on somebody. Oh, somebody's playing with their kid out on the playground. Isn't the park closed? If they're the only ones there, they're not putting anyone in danger. I don't care if they're breaking your petty little rule that the city council had no right to pass in the first place. Freedom of assembly and access to public property, grossly illegal. If I was a police officer, I would never write a ticket or enforce any of these things. And yet we did have police officers going out there to the beach, 2 of them, to have contact with a third party, forcing the interaction between 3 people that the ordinance was designed to prevent, because someone cannot be allowed to be just living their life in the midst of a pandemic. If someone is at home, locked in their house, completely paralyzed with fear, well, then everyone else better too. And the thing is, that person who was out there paddleboarding in the ocean, this in this hypothetical scenario, he was called in by somebody who was inside their house. But all they have to do is look out the window and see what other people are doing. And you would not believe the number of calls to the police department that are from people who are inside looking at their window and they're not happy with what they see outside, as if it affected them at all. Very, very common, not confined to 2020. It continues to this day. Politically, I am here. Look at all these guys kissing up to Israeli interests. Bush, Clinton, Obama, Trump. And then I don't know if that's baby Netanyahu in the foreground, but probably. And meanwhile, Kennedy is over here saying, I'm not going to do that. And look what happened to Kennedy. RFK Jr. or RFK, OG RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, the Attorney General, also, when he was running for president, was not super up on Israeli interests. And he also died before he could be elected president. Guys, just remember way back in 1775 when we were still fighting England for our independence, we were not allowed to criticize the king. We were not allowed to criticize King George. We had to pay taxes annually to Great Britain. To England, we had to pay them $85,000 annually, which is a lot in 1775 money. You got to remember back then, people are walking around with half pennies in their pockets. That was a normal denomination of money, was literally a half cent back then. They called it a hay penny, and it was worth 1/2 cent. We don't even have pennies at all anymore, let alone half pennies. And they had to send soldiers to fight wars for Great Britain. When Great Britain would get into scraps with the Native Americans, when they would get into it with the French, colonials here in the United States were expected to do their part. But a lot has changed since we gained our independence, because now in 2026, we're not allowed to criticize the state of Israel. We have to pay our taxes to Israel, but now that number is $18 billion, or trillion, if I'm reading that right. 1,000, million, billion. Okay, it's just a billion, but it'll be a trillion at some point with the devaluation of the money. And also, we have to send soldiers to fight their wars. They have a problem with Iran, and for some reason, even though we have our own problems with Iran, Iran not really a threat to us, we have to get involved in that. We have to celebrate the fact that gas is under $2 a gallon in January, and then by March, be paying the same prices we were paying when Biden was president. And we have to be sending off our young people to die for their fucking cause, and we have to continue to pay them money. And also, if you say anything bad about the state of Israel, well, then you automatically hate Jewish people, and you're an anti-Semite, and you're a racist. Maybe I just don't like some other country in their policies. Okay? I don't necessarily like country. I don't like Canada and their policies. No one's calling me a racist for not liking Canada. But if I say anything bad about Israel, I must be an anti-Semite. It's just a way of silencing critical thought. If you can't defeat someone in the arena of ideas, if they're saying something out loud that is making a goddamn good point, and you have nothing to say in response to that defeats their point, you just call them a racist. If you can't defeat them in the arena of ideas, you attack their character. And it happens way too often. And as I've said on this show and many other shows, that being a racist is the worst thing that you can be, and it requires the least amount of proof, and it puts people on the defensive. And frankly, it's what inmates did when I worked in the prison. If I was enforcing the rules upon them and they didn't like it, they called me a racist. Well, white people and Americans need to develop a tougher skin to this sort of thing. We need to stop feeling bad about it. We need to stop being defensive about it and just double down on what we're doing, enforcing the rules or criticizing another nation state. Even though it's an ethno state, we can criticize them without being racist. I will hold the door open for a Jewish person. If someone's celebrating Hanukkah, good for them. That doesn't mean that I am happy about sending all of my tax money to the nation state of Israel and then backing their play, especially when President Nixon admitted back in the 90s they have no strategic value to us as the United States. I'm not saying you just hand them over to the people that want to wipe out Israel, but I'm also saying we don't need to be the only ones bending over backwards for them. First of all, they have nukes. They can protect themselves. They have a lot of money. And if they want to pass around the hat in Europe for people to protect them from their bad neighbors, then why don't they do that? Or if their neighborhood is too bad, God forbid that they should move somewhere else. They could move somewhere else. They don't have to live there. They want to live there, that's fine. They can live there. But when you live in a bad neighborhood, you assume certain risks for yourself. Just the same thing if I moved into downtown Baltimore. I might have a bad time there. But it doesn't mean that I expect other people to finance me living in downtown Baltimore. Food for thought. More politics. We already did that one, John. I've never met someone who says they regretted voting for Donald Trump. I'm pretty black-pilled at this point. I guess I'm not regretting it, because if I'd voted for Harris, like, the situation would be like this, only worse. So, but I'm really let down, to be honest with you. I'm not happy that we're in Iran. It hasn't been really explained to me. People have said, well, we have certain policies and treaties in place in the Mideast, and Iran was ignoring those things, and they continued to ignore them, and they continued to ignore them, and they continued to ignore them. And so we took action on it. And that was the same thing we did in Iraq. We had certain policies about how UN weapons inspectors were supposed to have access to the goings on in Iraq, and they were not following the policies that were put in place. That's just a rationale. It's not worth sending someone to die over. Just because they're misbehaving doesn't mean that some U.S. serviceman needs to die. And frankly, someone can ignore the admonitions and policies and sanctions of the United Nations, the United States, and so what? Uh, it's not worth my brother or your brother or somebody else dying over, to be honest. You can make a case that, there's people in Iran that want to be free. Well, there's people everywhere that want to be free. But is it the job of the United States to free the world? You could say morally, yes, it's our job to bring the kind of freedom that we have here to the entire world. But you're making a decision for other people who are stakeholders in that decision, people with sons and daughters. And you're not going to be there to console them when their son or their daughter dies for your high-minded ideal of freeing some random third-party person who probably will still hate the United States afterwards. So maybe, if you're looking at Iran the same way you looked at Iraq or the liberation of various other countries, maybe you need to look at the track record of the United States and maybe grow up a little bit. Look at Vietnam. It really didn't work out. We never really learned our lesson, though. By the way, I have to praise President Trump for sending ICE agents to go to airports, because this is the perfect PR cleanup. People spent the last 4 or 5 months hating on ICE. They hate ICE agents. They're running at them with their cars. They're fighting them in Minneapolis. I don't know if any of that's still going on, by the way. You would assume that it was, but the news media has moved on to other things, so it's like nobody cares anymore. But now people are at airports. People are pissed off. People are waiting forever. Trump waited until the situation got out of hand so that people were very angry. And now he gets to go in there and be the hero. It's like, okay, so this is, the Democrats in Congress are withholding funds because they're trying to make a statement about the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, right? They're trying to flex their legislative power out of protest for the things that have been going on for immigrations and customs enforcement. Well, we'll take all these ICE agents and we'll put them in the airports so that people can get to where they're going faster. ICE will look like the heroes. People will be flying faster and hopefully safer. You would hope ICE agents are doing a better job than TSA, because I've accidentally flown with many prohibited items before the TSA never bothered to catch, in spite of the fact that because I have a beard and I look conservative or slightly Muslim, I guess I always get extra treatment from TSA. But now ICE has a chance to go in there. They get to look like absolute heroes. And somehow something will go wrong, and the Democrat Party will still find a way to criticize this move. But this TSA catastrophe is the Democrat Party in a nutshell. They're directly causing immense hardships for American citizens, all for the sake of foreign invaders who don't even belong in this country. This is the foreigner's first ideology, perfectly illustrated. And if you think it's not an ideology, you just have to remember that even though it was political theater and an absolute trap, Donald Trump did say, everyone in this room who believes that Americans should be put first by American government, please stand up. And of course, the Democrat Party probably does believe that, but they can't be seen standing when Donald Trump calls people to align with his views, because that would get them not elected, and they would not get to continue to be rich and launder your money to various interests going forward. So they have to sit down and continue these policies. But is there anyone who really believes that people who don't live in this country should be treated with priority over people who do? I mean, even if you believe that we should have compassion for people that aren't from this country, and that we should find a way to rescue them from whatever plight it is that they're fleeing from, and their beloved homeland, whose culture that they must hold on to, even though it is a place so bad that they literally quit. Even if you have compassion for those people, do you really think that you should have more compassion for those people than you should for the people who are electing you, the people who are legitimate Americans? And yet there's people who will say yes to that. You guys remember the last time we had a mass shooting, and before the guy went out crazy, before he chimped out and started popping off rounds, he screamed out, "Christ is King." Oh, yeah, that never happened. Just as a reminder that all of you people out there who criticize Christianity for our hate and the things that we do, just remember that there's no one out there doing mass shootings in the name of Jesus Christ. Not one. Even though this is a largely Christian country, there's not anyone out there who's going out there and doing that. Amazing how this happens over and over and over and over again with people saying Allahu Akbar. And we have to pretend that we don't know the actual motivations of these people. We have to pretend that Islam is a religion of peace, even though they keep doing it over and over again, basically saying Allah is great and I'm about to kill people in his name. This happens over and over and over and over again. And we have to pretend, no, no, no. Islam is a religion of peace. It's a religion of peace. And yet, the side-by-side comparison, the main religion of this country, which is Christianity, not one fucking case are people going out there and mass shooting people in the name of Jesus Christ. But the common belief amongst the left and the atheistic alike, and just the secular type of people, is that Christians are full of hate. But we don't ever have to do any thumbnail sketch of what these two religions look like compared next to each other. To say nothing of the fact of how they treat women in these countries, these 55 countries where Sharia law is the law of the land, and women have to cover themselves with burqas, and women are not allowed to drive, and women may not go out in public unaccompanied by their husbands, and women may not talk to men who are not their husbands, and women must get married when they're age 13, and all the goat fucking and all these things that goes on in all these countries. We have to be tolerant to that and bring that shit here. Even though they have 55 countries where they can just fucking do that shit, we have to be tolerant and let it here. But God forbid you're a Christian, because then you're a hate monger. You're someone who has to be reviled and attacked and condemned. Even though the common Christian is doing close to zero goat fucking. Anyway, time spent in federal government. George Washington only spent 8 years. He was a general in the Continental Army, so I think that was a federal role that he had for a while. But I guess as far as political office, he only held 8 years. You have to remember that was at the end of George Washington's career. He was actually old and tired by the time he assumed the presidency. He didn't even want to do it, not just because he didn't want to be the king of America, but also just ain't got time for that. Luckily, the role of the president at the time George Washington took office, I believe in 1789, the presidency was a very small thing. They just signed legislation passed by Congress into law, and then they oversaw the executive department. They didn't decide the everyday lives of Americans. Thomas Jefferson spent 10 years. You got to remember, he spent a little time as vice president, as president, and then I think he was also Secretary of State, the first Secretary of State. So he spent about 10 cumulative years. Great president. Thomas Jefferson, totally underrated. John Adams spent 12 years. You got to remember, he was also vice president, and then he was president. He spent 12 years. Our first three presidents, some of our greatest statesmen, men worthy of statues, men worthy of universities, men worthy, frankly, of aircraft carriers. They spent precious little time in the federal government. Then you have Nancy Pelosi, 39 fucking years, Mitch McConnell, 41 years, Chuck Schumer, 45 years. Career politicians have spent their lives enriching themselves at your expense. It explains everything. They are grifters. They are not founders. They are not statesmen like Washington, Jefferson, and Adams. And they insult this country with every year they spend in office and every time they go up for re-election. Washington, he was a Federalist, but he was politically conservative by today's standards, certainly. He did not believe that power should be vested in one man. He set the precedent. He could have run for president indefinitely. In fact, he ran unopposed his first time. And he could have been president for the rest of his life if he wanted to be. There was no law in place that would have prevented him from serving infinite consecutive terms as president. That law didn't exist yet. But he said no. After 2 terms, he didn't even want to do the second term. I am stepping down. We are going to show the world that people can govern themselves, that we can have a peaceful transition of power, and I will resume living on my fucking plantation. I will go back to my life. I will not be in charge of this country and the federal affairs of this government anymore. Jefferson, on his tombstone, he doesn't even say 3rd president of the United States on his tombstone. You know what it says? It says founder of the University of Virginia. He was more proud that he founded a school than he was a president of this country. And yet you have these guys, Schumer, McConnell, Pelosi, Thune, plenty of others. John McCain was one of these as well. where they just spend their whole life in politics, and you have to wonder why. Uh, because they're certainly not following the model of our greatest statesmen, our greatest forebears, and it explains everything. They are grifters. They are not true statesmen. Politics over. We're done. Do you guys remember a time when you could not smoke, but we knew you were going to anyway? This is exactly, by the way, how we should be treating Iran. They're breaking the rules, but we should just make it, when they break the rules, make it so it's not so much of a goddamn hassle. We can control them. We can treat them like bad motel tenants or children. We can manage their behavior, without killing them. That wasn't even meant to be political, but it kind of came off that way. Hickey's overrated. Give me a bullet wound. I had a hickey once, and it hurt. And the manager at Target did not like that I had that, and to the point where she felt like it was perfectly okay for her to comment on it. I don't know why. Michelle thought that she could walk up to me and ask me about my hickeys as if it's any of your goddamn business. Michelle, I am 19. I am in college, and I am making out with people, and I don't care if I have a bruise on my neck. You have to fucking deal with it, because you are paying me $6.25 an hour, which even in 2004 is not a lot of money. So maybe get out of my face and shut the fuck up. I'm gonna have a hickey. I know everything costs a lot more, but at least it's also worse quality. Have you noticed that just everything's bad? I'm lucky. I live in a place that has a turn of the century architecture, meaning 1900s architecture. And I was walking last night and looking at these buildings that have the names of great men as part of the arches, and there, it'll say the guy's name on a building. And these structures are beautiful, and they're intricate, and they're ornate, and they're one of a kind. And then you look at modern buildings, and then they look like something that came from IKEA. That's prefab, something that's cheap. And everything in the world is like that. Nothing is handcrafted. Nothing is intricately or delicately made. Everything's mass produced. The downside of interchangeable parts is that everything looks like shit, and everything is shit. Everything's bad. Everything was objectively better, and even in the 80s, even as a child. We talked about how cars are manufactured to break down, but literally everything is. Life would be easier if we all had our video game health bar above our heads, letting everyone know how close we are to a mental meltdown. That's the thumbnail for today. It would be nice if people knew just how close I was to my breaking point, so maybe they didn't hit me that one last time. My life improved dramatically once I accepted that I have no singular all-consuming calling. And instead, I just want to do a variety of stuff, kind of, like until I eventually die. I'm just doing things. I'm just doing some stuff. I'm just passing my days. I have no great calling, no great moment of destiny before me, no moment of self-sacrifice, nothing that would define me as a hero or a person of importance, let alone a person of consequence. I'm just someone who kind of does a variety of stuff until I eventually die. It's very freeing to embrace. It's like this. This is how that feels. I just do things. This is why I keep going on. I was born and I haven't died yet. Sheer inertia is keeping me going. Sometimes people are amazed at the story of my life. Now I'm still putting around, but it's like, did you expect me to lay down and die? Was that ever an option? I mean, I guess in a sense, I could have faced the ultimate moment where I could have decided to murder myself in cold blood, but that's a lot of work. It leaves behind a mess. And even that takes some bit of courage that a cowardly person like me does not have. So I'm still alive by virtue of not having died. That is why I'm still here. Waking up, so I'm going to try laying in traffic instead of bed. I'm just going to go lay out in the road. My sister was actually well known for being the only person at the daycare who she was the youngest person at her daycare. And until one day, a slightly younger child came in, and she didn't like not being the youngest anymore. She took this younger child by the hand and out to the parking lot and told them to lay in the parking lot until a car hit them. That's my younger sister for you. You call it a near-death experience. I call it a glimpse of hope. Almost got out of here. Every time I've almost got into a terrible car accident, I've always just been like, oh, so this is it. I've never been afraid. And I've had some really bad ones. I've gone off the road at very high speeds before. Just nothing happened. I hate agreeing to plans too far in advance because I don't know how I'm going to feel that day, but I also hate same day plans because it's too short notice. There's really no way to make a plan with me. And then just as a final reminder with that Coors, this is probably what that guy had to eat that night. He had his own steak, perfectly cooked. Look at the juicy, tender meat and the crispy charred crust on that. That is a perfectly cooked steak. He also has his Marlboros, and a nice Coors. Remember, it's the banquet beer. There's always a reason to go on. There's 69 messages. Nice. I'm going to try to go back through these things before the show ends. I'm guessing most of it is just people talking to each other. Big Fat Ugly says, how's it going? I'm good. Glad you're here. Hope you saw some memes that you liked. It's possible that you did. Jonathan telling other people not to say things alienating his audience. I remember doing alienating rants in a previous time. You can always alienate me if you want. We'll still be friends. Root beer for sure, but we're adults now. I want a gummy bear energy drink. That's funny. I also am a big fan of those energy drinks. I would never return if they called me boss repeatedly. I feel like that's a way to call someone an asshole and then think you're being nice. Possibly. I mean, it could be passive aggressive, but if it controls their passive aggression into something that's not bad, then I think that's fine. I like being called boss. I still call my old store manager, even though he's a dispatcher for a county fire now, boss. Weird. I don't like it when people call me boss. To me, it sounds trashy. Call me sir, or call me my brother in Christ. I like being called boss. I think that that's fine. It really depends on the tone and inflection. And I don't think they're doing it in a mean way. People get bent when I was working, also volunteering at the department. They get goddamn mad when I said sir or ma'am. Yeah, she's right. I would never say this to Foxy directly, but I'll say it in her presence. She is right that you can't call people sir or ma'am because they get mad about that. They don't want to be called sir or ma'am. Well, first of all, to say nothing about like possibly misgendering someone. But they're all like, don't call me ma'am. That makes me sound old. I'm like, well, I'm just from the South. We called people ma'am and sir from there. So sorry. I meant to honor you by calling you ma'am or sir, but it's like no matter what I do, I'm wrong. I met John's doppelganger last night, even has John's personality. I don't believe you, Michael. There is no one else out there like me. And if I met him, it would be my job to kill him. My husband sired 2 kids with me. Thanks, Lauren. All right. Sired makes it seem like there was not a lot of emotion there. But John, Israel is our greatest ally. We get so much from them, such as, even if you could say that like they were the greatest source of imported bagels, I would go for that. We got nothing. We get nothing from those guys. Pointless. We should actually it seems to me like Trump would do a pay-to-play deal where it's like, okay, we're going to continue to fund you, but we need something from you on this. Like, we need to be seeing something from you. We need to see your Iron Dome technology or I don't know, get something of interest out of them. Took my truck to the dealership today to figure out what it says I need to service. On my parking brake, they said $600 and $1,300 after labor because they have to pull the axle. I Googled it and I can get the part for $279 and it's 2 bolts to remove it myself. Someone is always trying to screw me except my wife. The one person you want to do it is not doing it. Hippies love the deer until they move to the country and have to deal with them in the road, the yard, etc. Yeah, I always have to tell them you built your house in the deer's or the wombats or the badger's natural environment. Your house is actually inside their house, so they're not trespassing in your window well. You built your window well on their land. Remember, there are no unwanted animals on stolen land, everyone. Are there bats in your attic? Well, this is stolen land. So just as a gentle reminder to anyone who may hear this, most of the United States was purchased. Just so you know, we did buy it. Mexico, the Louisiana Purchase, California, Texas. Texas became an independent nation, and then they were broke, so they begged and pleaded to join the United States. Don't forget that. Diesel is $5.19 right now in Ohio, which means that everything shipped, farmed, or constructed just increased in price. Well, it's a good thing we don't have a lot of things coming in from Ohio. not by way of the St. Lawrence Seaway from the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, fuck. Yeah, that's right, guys. Ohio actually plays a very large role in international shipping. So good luck to you on that. Donald Trump wants to make the nonviolent foreign invaders citizens. Great, great. I thought the whole point was that he realized what a scam that was. So TSA is only going to bring a sense of security, but really does very little. That's true. But back on this, Reagan was saying that we needed to have a path forward for citizenship for illegals who were already here. And look what happened. We went from a state that had Nixon and Reagan to the current state of the things with Gavin Newsom. So that's what happens when you give a path to citizenship for people who already disrespected your laws so much that they came here without observing the proper process, which does exist for them. But they don't respect those rules. So we should definitely just reward their bad behavior, reward the fact that they ignored our pathway to citizenship, which already existed. When you say we need a pathway to citizenship for these people, you're ignoring the fact that there is a fucking pathway to citizenship, and they decided not to walk that pathway. They decided not to do it. Are you going to reward them for skipping all the people in line who are trying to do it the right way? They cut in line. You're the bouncer of this concert, and you see people cutting in line. You're going to say, well, they're at the front of the line now, in front of all these people who are fucking waiting to get inside. And you're like, well, you're up here, so I might as well just let you inside. No, it's fundamentally unfair. It's unfair to those people who are doing it the proper way. You want to talk about having compassion for people? How about you have compassion for Americans? First of all, have compassion for us, and have compassion for the people that are trying to become Americans. You have compassion for illegal immigrants. You are saying no to compassion for Americans. You are saying no to compassion for people who are trying to do it the right way. So don't talk to me about compassion for illegal aliens, because they're ignoring the pathway to citizenship that is already established by law. There. I got yelled at by one in Baltimore because I was my niece's small snow globe with Washington Monument in it. Sir, you can't bring a snow globe on an airplane. Do they think you had jet fuel inside of it? Or what? TSA is a farce. They are, yes. So you're saying the media is gaslighting us? I don't know. That kind of implies that they're trying to make you crazy. I don't even know if their agenda is that much. John has to legally say close to zero. It's a non-zero probability that Christians are engaging in bestiality. In the beginning, the president had to sign off on patents. The first U.S. patents were signed by George Washington. Unsolicited fact of the day. That's pretty cool. I like that. That's because there was no United States Patent Office at the time. So a patent was just a law that it would be his job to sign off on. That makes sense. Dear surgeon is what I call the brush guard on my truck. That's pretty funny. I saw that Pakistan said that if we attack Pakistan, they will nuke India. I mean, was that supposed to dissuade us? Yeah. Hey, man, we're taking India hostage. Okay. Yeah, they're apparently Pakistan and Afghanistan are at war and nobody gives a fuck. I wish we had that attitude about some of the other things going on, but Israel, with their financial influence, is what keeps bringing us into that. We could be very lucky and have the internal goings on of the Middle East, which is a big fucking empty place of nothingness for the most part, except for the oil and our various oil interests in the Middle East. Never mind the fact that we can get oil from elsewhere. And frankly, we should all stop buying oil from the Middle East. And we should depress the prices to the point where in order to survive, they will just sell us the land, sell us the companies, and go out of business. We should force them out of the market. We should cut off, we should boycott them. We should boycott all Middle East oil. I realize what that would do to the price of gas in the United States. For someone who's complaining about it being over $3 a gallon, but after the United States would choke off, or the West in general would choke off these fucking thugs in the Middle East who love to do some of the things that I mentioned earlier. After we completely depress the prices, after we make demand go away, and they're out there looking for water to drink, I think that they might be more amenable to doing better deals with us in the future. If only we had some sort of ultimate deal maker in office who could do things like that. You also blame me for almost getting in a wreck. I did almost die, and it was almost your fault. I almost always interpret boss and chief as negative. Not sure why. I like being called boss. And when I call my boss, when I call him boss, I think it's a positive thing. I heard they don't call me man. That makes me feel old. So I wanted to call them bitch. How does that make you feel when I call you bitch? To anyone else who is new to the show that you dropped in for the first time today, I hope you liked something you saw. If you're still hanging around, if not, sorry that it wasn't for you. But Woodcarver's Corner, check out his channel. It looks like he may have a full channel there that could be interesting if it's about wood carving, if that's possible. And then also Big Fat Ugly Forever may have some Big Fat Ugly Forever to say. So I don't know. Check him out if he has a channel, or leave him alone if he doesn't. But we'll be back here on Thursday night. We're going to be covering the Kelsey Fitzsimmons case. That is cop-on-cop violence. Other news media outlets may not be covering it because, like black-on-black violence, they do not care when it's cop-on-cop violence. This thing has Karen Reed overtones. It happened in Massachusetts. There's talk about the police circling the wagons, the police doing each other dirty. And what's interesting about this, in contrast to the Corey Richards case, is the defense is putting up an alternative narrative of what happened. And interestingly, this case is playing out in front of the judge only. There is no jury. It is a bench trial. So it's interesting to see the way that witnesses are being treated on the stand and facts of the case are being pursued when they're just telling it to the judge. The judge is ultimately going to decide whether or not Kelsey Fitzsimmons is guilty or not guilty. It's a tragic case, an interesting case, and I encourage you to, if you're just learning about it, you're just finding out about it, I want you to go into it with this attitude first. That Kelsey Fitzsimmons is not guilty of the charges against her. That should be your premise, your default opinion when you go into any case, that this person is not guilty. And then the prosecution must convince you that they are, but you should be critical of the prosecution, be willing to hear out a defendant in court, let them make their case, presume them not innocent, grant them the same benefit of a doubt that you would want yourself if you were going, if you were being wrongfully charged and you were going to court and with threat of the deprivation of your freedom. You would want people to treat you with the presumption of innocence. Grant that to Kelsey Fitzsimmons as you look at this case and every other case. It's an interesting case. Drew's working hard on it. Right now, the case is going forward. The defense was doing a cross-examination of the primary witness this morning. It's interesting stuff. Brush up on the case if you're interested, but we will see you live on Thursday night. Thank you all to watch the show. I appreciate you. And also to the people who watch it later. Make sure you leave your name in a comment below so that I know you watched it. Butter Queen, if you watched all the way to the end, or Shorty, or some of these other people. Felony, Melanie, Tallyhoo, whoever, Joni, whoever might have been watching it, make sure you leave a comment below if you watched to the end so that I know that you enjoyed it. I need that kind of affirmation to keep going. Have a good night. Have a good day. Goodbye, Abby. Go listen to Abby's show. She just dropped a new episode. Always a good time when you listen to Abby's show. We will catch you back here next week for another episode of Memes and More, and everything that you need to cope with a less than normal life. We will see you then. Have a good day, everybody.